Two Veronets. Other comedies of the first period. Even in one of the most Italian plays of Shakespeare, in the comedy, Two Veronets, under Italian names and clothes, England is everywhere in the 16th century. And we are therefore not at all surprised when in the Two Veronets 1594 one of the Italian bandits swears the bald skull of a fat monk, a friend of Robin Hood. Let us also recall the servants of Lance and Spida, who even have English names. In the Two Veronese wonderful images of these comic servants, especially Lones with his dog Crab. In his attitude towards the crab, Launus in comic terms repeats the main and serious motive of the Two Veronese, the motive of true friendship. And just as Proteus responds with cold ingratitude to Valentine's faithful friendship, the self-centered and insensible crab to Lunce's loyal friendship. In the English plays of Shakespeare's predecessors, the servants of noble masters, as well as people from the common people, were usually only buffoon figures, clowns. Shakespeare gave them humanity, lively feelings and intelligence. Smart dwarf groom, servant of Petruchio, in The Taming of the Shrew. Smart, despite all his ridiculous absurdity, and Lones. Listen, he says, I'm only a fool. But, however, I had the insight that my master was a rogue of his kind. Later on, in Shakespeare's works, during periods of his creative maturity, persons embodying folk wisdom and popular humor will rise to their full height, and Shakespeare's jesters, for example, a jester in King Lear, will appear before us as thoughtful contemplatives of life. In the Two Veronets, as in many other comedies of Shakespeare, everything is full of movement, aspiration forwards. Active Valentine is opposed to the idle Proteus. He would like to take Proteus into satellites. To miracles of the earth to marvel together, so that sitting at home, his youth you did not waste in idleness. Uncle Proteus is surprised that his brother allows his son, losing the days, sitting barren at home. Meanwhile, as people more victorious by birth they send sons for profit and glory, the one to the war to experience fortune, he, in the sea to open the land, that in the university, in the temple of science. Two Veronets is a relatively little popular play by Shakespeare, but to understand his creativity, it is of great importance. Julia's image, for example, is like a sketch for the images of Rosalind, As You Like It, created by Shakespeare afterwards. Viola, Twelfth Night. Imogen, Cymbeline. Note, by the way, that, like them, Julia disguises herself in the man's dress. This is Shakespeare's favorite type of woman, constant in her feelings, determined and enterprising. The more obstacles there are, the stronger the fire of her feelings burns. The more you extinguish, the stronger it burns. As soon as the stream sliding on the forest, I met the dam and started boiling over. Do not get in my way, and, like a stream, I will be patient, a hard way considering entertaining until my step last to my love will not lead me, says Julia. The glorification of constancy, Valentine, Julia, Sylvia, Aglamer is the main theme of the Two Veronets. Constancy is contrasted with the changeable Proteus. The very name of it is taken from ancient Greek mythology. The shepherd of the sea god Poseidon. Proteus had the gift to take any shape. The inconstancy of Proteus not only leads him to betrayal, but also is a source of unhappiness for others. The inconstancy of man, according to Shakespeare, is the source of all evils. Yes, be a person's permanence, he would be perfect, says Proteus himself at the end of the play. This end probably does not satisfy many readers. Proteus' remorse is too unexpected and unmotivated. Shakespeare here changes realism. But such conditional moments are generally typical of the drama of that era. They also occur in Shakespeare, for example, the repentance of the villain Duke at the end of the comedy, How You Like It, or the remorse of Giacomo in the play, Cymbeline. A living villain will never say how. Richard III in Shakespeare. I decided to become a villain. These are all vestiges of primitive medieval drama. However, in the final of Two Veronets, Shakespeare was not very interested in psychological details. He needed to quickly bring events to a happy ending to finish the play with words. A single house, a united amicable feast, a single cloudless happiness. The comedy, A Midsummer Night's Dream 1595, as the researchers believe, was written by Shakespeare for the celebration of an aristocratic wedding. Weddings of nobles were usually accompanied by a long feast, during which the actors performed with their performances. This piece sounds like an epithalame, a solemn wedding song. A Midsummer Night's Dream is one of Shakespeare's most poetic works. When I tried to determine what poetry is, I remember Titania and Oberon, said the American poet Edgar Poe. The play amazes with the wealth of fiction. It is not difficult to distinguish three whole plans in it. First, the world of loving boys and girls. Secondly, the world of cheerful artisans led by the weaver Bacchus. And, finally, the world of magical creatures. Here is the queen of the elves of Titania, the changed name of the ancient Roman goddess of the moon of Diana, and the king of the night Oberon, and the mountain of English folk beliefs, the playful spirit of Peck. Robin is also the good small, and the magic creatures created by Shakespeare himself, sweet pea, spider's web, moth, mustard grain. Poetic fantasy here is combined with humor. The Queen of Elves falls in love with a simple guy with a donkey's head, omnipotent love jokes on people. But even in this light, brilliant play, there is a big theme, enclosed in a typical Renaissance glorification of nature, in the bosom of which young lovers get happiness after fantastic misadventures. In a completely different plan, Shakespeare wrote the comedy, Windsor Cossacks 1597, household paintings from the lives of citizens of the British province. Although the scene of action is called Windsor, where one of the royal palaces was located, in reality we have a much deeper provincial environment, more like Stratford, the birthplace of Shakespeare. An important judge is shallow, proud of her position and hereditary nobility. His nephew, stupid nobleman slender of inexpensive, crass nobile and joker, the owner of a local hotel. Hugh Evans, the pastor of the local church, he is a teacher of the local school, and the Dr. Caius, French, cheerful, drunk, thick, squandered knight Sir John Falstaff and his henchman, benign, thrustful, hospitable Mr. Page and suspicious, jealous Mr. Ford. Their wives are elderly, but lively gossips. The young daughter of the well-to-do townsman Anna Page, in love with the nobleman Fenton, are all living types of England of the 16th century. The main character of the comedy is Sir John Falstaff. According to legend, the highly believable comedy was written Shakespeare, commissioned by Queen Elizabeth, who really liked Falstaff from Shakespeare's Henry IV, and who expressed a desire to see Falstaff in love. In the Shakespearean era, the play was called an excellent and pleasant comedy about Sir John Falstaff and Ella Mary wives of Windsor. But about Falstaff, we will talk separately. It is enough to compare the brilliant light fantasy, A Midsummer Night's Dream, with the dense domestic colors of Windsor Gossips to feel the diversity of the Shakespearean palette. Variety amazes us at every step. Reading, for example, the comedy, A Lot of Noise from Nothing 1598, we seem to enter a new sphere. The action here is built on the clash of two irreconcilable, bizarre characters, the misogynist Benedict and the hating man of Beatrice, a clash that ends with mutual love. In addition to this fond theme, in the comedy sounds and gloomy notes, the society of the era of growing capitalist competition was imbued with the spirit of envy and hatred for each other. As if the bunch of this pernicious spirit is the villain Don Juan, the sower of intrigues and lies, who, acting in one of the most gay comedies of Shakespeare, is the prototype of the most gloomy of all Shakespearean villains, Iago. Don Juan is the source of all the misfortunes, and thanks to him the fate of the slandered hero slips on the very edge of the tragic catastrophe. This is a fun, festive comedy. But there is not only a lot of light in it, there are shadows in it. The comedy, How Do You Like It? That is, name it as you wish, we usually translate, How You Like It, was written by Shakespeare in 1599. Shakespeare borrowed the plot of the comedy from a euphuistic and refined novel by Lodge Rosalind. This novel, in turn, takes us to the storyline of the story of Gamelin, a folk